So good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today to talk about the SBIR application process to receive SBIR grant from the Department of Energy. And today we're joined by Alex Wang of the University of Maryland and Eileen Chant from the Office of SBIR and STTR Programs of the U.S. Department of Energy. Before we begin this session, I want to make sure that you saw and heard that the session will be recorded. We will post it on our Startup UMD YouTube channel, where you can go and watch, rewatch this again in case you missed something or wanted to refresh this. So during the workshop, please feel free to submit your questions using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. And if you see that somebody else asked the same question that you have, go ahead and vote on that question. And that way, the most voted questions will be asked first. So during the session, please submit your questions during the Q&A using the Q&A function. And at the end of the session, you will be able to also raise your hand and unmute your microphone and ask your question live that way. So without further ado, please welcome Alex and Eileen. And before I share the slides, why don't you take a minute and introduce yourselves, talk a little bit about your background.
Yeah, thank you, Ala. Good morning, everyone. I'm Alex Wang. I am the director of Maryland International Incubator. We are part of the Division of Research. And my background is cell and molecular biology. I did my PhD in US. And also I spent a few years in consulting business, and I have certain business background. So it is my job to help our community, especially high-tech startup, to get the resource and try to translate the technology and commercialize them, okay? So today, I will spend about 8 to 10 minutes, give a high-level overview what the SBIR and STTR look like, because some of the audience may be the first timer to get into this topic. So the first slide, please.
Why don't we give Eileen a few minutes to talk about her background, and then we'll jump right into your presentation.
Thank you, Ala.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here and to talk to you about the DOE SBIR STTR programs. My name is Eileen Chant, and I'm new to the DOE. I've been at the DOE for less than a year. I spent over 25 years in working in the private sector. I'm a mechanical engineer. I have a PhD in mechanical engineering from Georgia Tech Institute of Technology. And I've worked at a variety of companies. I've worked with a number of startup companies doing research and development. I've also been written SBIR, STTR proposals from the other end and been an awardee for SBIR, STTR programs. And I am just happy to be here and talk to you today. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me go ahead and share the screen for Alex. All right, can you see my screen, Alex?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Ala. So
Perfect.
Let's start by moving to the next slide. Okay, so the next slide. Yeah, Ala, this is a cover slide. We can move on for the next slide, please.
Yep, there you go.
Okay. So for SBIR and STTR, SBIR refers to Small Business Innovation Research, and STTR is the sister program called Small Business Tech Transfer Program. Okay, they have been around for nearly 3 decades, started by NSF, National Science Foundation, and they become very important resource because the annual budget for those 2 projects combined is as high as $4 billion, participated by a total of 11 agencies, okay? So the large agencies, they even have STTR, but not all of them have that. So I'm going to touch base a little bit about what's the difference between the 2. So the next slide, please. Yeah. So we are not going to go deep about eligibility, but it is a small business, a startup. They are eligible to apply. So university researcher per se, they cannot apply alone, and the nonprofit, they cannot apply, okay? The reason the federal government set up this great initiative is because the government tried to stimulate technology translation to the market, try to stimulate the innovation. The other thing is the government also need procurement. They want a very diverse base of the technology as their vendors. So large corporations have some, but they don't have everything. Therefore, foster thousands or 10,000 of the high-tech small startup is a good thing for the government procurement tool. What is the key value for the startup? Because those are the non-diluted funding. For startup, that will cover the gap of the money before they receive their first angel or venture capital. The other thing is only small portion of the startup receive SBIR and STTR award. So it is a very good reputation. Other value sometimes people overlook is the data you produce during the research, they get protected over 20 years between you and the government. And whether you file patent or not, you treat them as trade secrets, that is up to you. So that become a big leverage down the way. And also for some agency, after the 2 phases of the work, they are going to negotiate with you to procure your product and service. Those could mean down the way, you are looking at a guaranteed customer without RFP, you become the only vendor they want to work with, which is a huge value. So the next one, please. As I briefly mentioned in the last slide, there are 3 phases of SBIR STTR. The first 2 phases, they are funded by the agency under SBIR program. The last one, so-called phase 3, the money does not come from this initiative. We are not going there too much today. We are going to focus on phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 relatively small, and this is an example from NASA. And also at the bottom of the screen, you can see the TRL level, give you a kind of flavor, what kind of work, R&D work they are going to fund you, okay? So phase 1 can last 6 to 9 months, and then the money can be anywhere between $100,000 to $250,000. Phase 2 is much larger, that will last for 2 years, and then the money can go as high as $1 million or more, depending on the agency, okay? And for some agency, they understand one phase 2 is still not sufficient to help you to commercialize your technology. Therefore, they give you another one, so-called sequential phase 2, which means after you complete the first one, you can apply for the next. And the name can be different. Some agency call phase 2A, phase 2B. Some agency just have different name, okay? So next slide, please. So what is the journey look like as a startup? What does that mean for us to grow an investment round, okay? So this gives you a kind of flavor. Phase 1 and phase 2 help you to do R&D to mature your technology, but they are not designated to do the marketing and manufacture. During the phase 2, and also when you apply for phase 2, there's a lot of requirement for your readiness. Post phase 2, how would you address your resource to go to the market? Because you may need much more money from the private sector to do that, okay? That is the time a lot of private resource approach you to negotiate. So, and then after that one, as I mentioned, you enter the phase 3. The outcome could be the government negotiate with you with a big contract. And also the big corporation may approach you to license out your technology because you are ready. So there's a lot of value for you. And for government, the big news is, the good news is they also get a lot of benefit because they have a very reliable and the technology is very good. And then there's another option for their technology vendor and procurement. So the next slide, please. This is an overview of the agency funding SBIR and STTR. Among them, 5 large agencies in the research funding wise They also found STTR. Those are Defense Department, HHS, including NIH, Department of Energy, NASA, and the National Science Foundation. The difference between STTR and SBIR, I'm going to move on for the next slide, please. Oh, okay, before that one, just touch base. Who are eligible to apply? As I mentioned, it is for the small business. The definition of the small business is 500 or less employee, and also you don't have a major holding company or capital group who are regarded as large corporation. Different agencies interpret those kind of requirements in detail, and there's subtle difference depending on which one you're looking at. For the individual, like researcher in university, you are eligible to participate. For STTR, 4 out of the 5 agencies, you can become PI, even if you are the full-time researcher. And for the SBIR, university researcher and the other people can participate as a subcontractor, which I'm going to talk more in the next few slides. Next, please. Here is a high-level difference between SBIR and STTR. So for STTR, it is mandatory. There's a collaboration between small business and the research institute. Research institute refers to nonprofit university or the federal funded research and development center. In the US, totally we have 42, and in fact, nearly half of them are funded by the Department of Energy. Okay, and also STTR, that one, let me see. Yeah, this one is fine. So let's go for the next slide, please. So the other difference for those two one is the term of the subcontract. We use phase 1 as the example. If you're a small business, you may consider to use university or other corporation as your subcontractor because you don't have that capacity. For phase 1 SBIR, you're allowed to subcontract up to 1/3. For STTR phase 1, you have to conduct no less than 40%. And also university or research institute need to conduct nothing less than 30%. The remaining 30 can go either way. For the SBIR phase 2, the subcontract ratio can go as high as 50%. So the next one, please. Yeah. So when you start to think about SBIR, STTR, composition of your team, and how do you collaborate? For example, do you understand the paperwork of the university collaboration? Those are all important factors, especially you need to think about how much time in advance for you to approach those before you get your proposal ready. Next one, please. Yeah. Another detail is registration. Different agencies have different requirements. And Elaine are going to talk more about the DOE, so I'm not going to go through details. So the next one, please. Yeah. So university, we have a lot of resources, including webinar, cohort. In order to learn more information, you can reach out to me or go through Ella. So that concludes my part of the presentation. Thank you, Ella.
Thank you, Alex. If anybody has any questions, please submit them via the Q&A. I don't see any questions, so we are going to go ahead and move on with Eileen's talk next, now that Alex is done with the warm-up.
Okay. Can people see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Eileen Chan. I am the Outreach Program Manager at the Office of SBIR, STTR Programs for the Department of Energy. Feel free to type in a question in the Q&A box. We can answer questions as we go along, and I'm happy to entertain any questions that you have. I think Alex did a really great job of covering the basics of what is the federal SBIR, STTR program. And I won't spend too much on this slide, but the government will dictates that a little over 3.6% of the federal government's extramural R&D must be applied to the SBIR STTR program, which is a mechanism to fund the best early stage high risk innovation ideas. As Alex spoke about in his slide, phase 1 is the entry point into the program, and it is a feasibility evaluation for your early stage idea. It's not a technology that you've already developed to take it further down the road. It's a feasibility study for a technology idea. The idea is that the federal government should fund these high-risk early-stage ideas because they are not generally going to be funded by the private sector. So it's a good space for the federal government to operate in. And to stimulate technological innovation and commercialization of technology. And Alex provided a very good description of what a small business is, and we have more information on our website as well to make sure you qualify as a small business. One thing I think that's worth mentioning is that you don't actually have to be a small business to submit your application. If you have a good idea and are willing to form a small business, if you receive an award, that is good enough for our program. Here are the sort of the descriptions of the SBIR and the STTR program, which Alex really did a great job of covering, and I won't go into this slide. The STTR program, of course, is more focused on technology transfer between a national lab or a research institution, bringing the technology over to a small business which can work on further developing it and turning it into a commercial product. Okay, every federal agency runs their SBIR STTR program a little differently. So it's important for you to understand when you go to an agency to try to understand the details of each program. The DOE mission, the topics that we release are very specific and they align with the DOE mission. Well, what is the DOE mission? Well, goal number 1 is for the DOE to provide leadership in clean energy technologies. Now, everybody's probably fairly familiar with that idea that the DOE does work towards advancing clean energy. But did you also know that one of the mission of the DOE is to provide leadership in basic science and engineering as well too? And we have a number of program offices that work in that area. These are on the left side of the slide are a list of the program offices that participate in the DOE SBIR STTR program, i.e. they release topics. And finally, yes?
Sorry to interrupt. So there's a question here that's related. It's the question is, can PI from the university lead the STTR project?
Yes, and Alex covered that. When you submit, if you submit an SBIR application, the PI must be an employee of the small business. With an STTR application, the PI can either be an employee of the small business or the research institution, which includes a national lab or a university or any nonprofit research institution, a private non-profit research institution. Okay, and finally, the third goal of the Department of Energy's mission is enhancement of nuclear security, and we issue topics through these 2 offices, Defense Nuclear Nonproliferation and Environmental Management in that area as well, related to nuclear nonproliferation and cleanup of the nuclear waste sites around the country that were a result of the historical nuclear weapons program. Again, this slide just shows the offices that provide SBIR STTR topics. We have 2 releases a year. One of them is coming up in July 12th. And these are the offices that release topics. These are the offices that are more associated with the basic energy and engineering sciences. So these topics, you might consider them a little bit more esoteric than what the topics that are released in November, which are more around improving the energy grid, renewable energy technology development, making fossil energy more efficient and cleaner, advancement of nuclear energy, nuclear nonproliferation, and cybersecurity topics as well too. So July 12th will be a release, and November will be a release. Go to our website on those days and look at the topics and see if there is something that aligns with your area of expertise and your area of research and development. And here is a pretty long list of the topics that we provide, that we release. And I'm not going to read off this entire slide, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of the wide variety of topics that are out there that are affiliated with the Department of Energy's 3 major mission areas. Just giving people a minute to take a quick look at the slide, and I will move on. And one thing that I should point out, and Alex talked about the ability to develop a technology where the government would be purchasing the technology. Much of the Department of Energy's SBIR STTR program is focused around developing a commercial product for the private sector. So in many cases, or in most cases, the DOE is not the final customer. That's very different from the DOD, which is they're looking for specific technologies for the warfighter, and they will often, or most likely, be the ultimate customer for your technology. Now, some of the DOE's offices, you may end up being, that's not 100% true, because you may end up selling your technology to the national labs. Maybe there's a certain type of instrumentation or a readout meter that they're looking for, or a mirror that they're looking for, or some type of component for an accelerator that they're looking for. So it may be that the DOE is your final customer, but most of the time we're looking at technologies that can be taken to the private sector and the marketplace.
Eileen, there's also a relevant question here on the topics. Can we propose a topic if it's not in an announcement?
Well, there are some open topics, and I say that with quotes because they're specific to, they're open subtopics, but there's a topic that's above them that it has to be affiliated with. It might be something about carbon capture and sequestration. And then there will be a very specific subtopic that talks about specifically what type of technology it's looking for. And then there might be another subtopic that says other, but it has to be in the area of carbon capture and sequestration. So there are some open subtopics within topic areas. We don't have wide open topics. There are other opportunities. If you have technologies that don't fit in the DOE SBIR STTR list of topics, there are other agencies that fund open topics, and you can always approach the Department of Energy program managers with your ideas outside of the SBIR program, because there are funding mechanisms outside.
Thank you.
Anna, yeah,
You do. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, Anna, may I make a quick comment or slash a question for Eileen?
Sure.
Yeah. So Eileen, for this screen, goal number 3, nuclear security or nuclear technology seems to be a very important category. Am I correct that DOE is an agency, is a nuclear technology material supplier for DOD? Therefore, some technology SBIR over here may end up being the vendor for the Department of Defense.
Yeah, it's possible that there's some synergies there. That is true. I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but there are always synergies between the agencies. And sometimes a company will receive a phase 1 award for one agency, let's say DOE, and then their phase 2 might be with DOD. So like I said, there are overlapping topics with the different agencies.
Thank you.
And we're not in competition with the other agencies, so I encourage participants to look at the other agencies, look at their funding cycles, look at when their topics open, because we only have 2 a year, and there may be only 1 a year as far as the technology you're developing, because the technologies topics that are released are different with each release. How does our funding work? Alex had a similar slide that was more generic to the overall SBIR STTR program. Our phase 1 awards are between 200 and 250,000 maximum. And it's a feasibility evaluation. You can propose between 6 and 12 months of duration for your phase 1 study. Again, you have to be responsive to our focused mission-aligned topics in order to receive an award. The award rate is about 25%, so it's not a terrible success rate, but it is a competitive grant program, and you do have to write a high-quality proposal showing that you are the right person to carry out the research, or that the team that you've assembled is the right team to carry out your early stage idea that has the potential to have a significant impact in your technology area. We do give out 350 to 400 phase 1 awards a year. The phase 40 to 50% of phase 1 awardees go on to receive the phase 2 award. And that study is more focused on developing your prototype, demonstrating your technology, and also developing your trajectory to commercial success. Their awards, the maximum award ranges from 1.1 to 1.6 million over that 2-year period. And we give out approximately 160 awards per year. As Alex pointed out, for projects that require additional R&D funding to transition to commercialization, there are follow-on phase 2 awards, A or B or C, which have slightly different criteria associated with them. And they will allow you to take your technology to that next level before you would transition to phase 3, which is non-SBIR STTR funding. It might be the private sector, venture capitalists, angel investors. It might be another federal grant outside of SBIR, and you might sell your technology too and make an exit as well. Okay. Here's the release that's coming up. Here's the schedule. Again, on July 12th, there will be topics released. If you go to the site that's shown here at the bottom, our funding, you go to our homepage and you click on funding opportunities, and make sure you're on the fiscal year 2022 tab. On July 12th, this square here will be populated with a document, and it will list all the topics, and it will describe the topics that we're looking for. The funding opportunity announcement, which describes the application process and the solicitation requirements, will be released on August 9th. And there will be a document that will populate here, and so you can read the FOA. So your letter of intent is due on August 30th. And we provide, if your letter of intent is non-responsive to the topic, we will provide you feedback in September. It does not mean you can't submit a proposal. If you receive non-responsive feedback, it means you should adapt your approach to the feedback received. Applications are due October 12th. We do have a fairly extensive series of webinars. We will have about 9 or 10 webinars during this cycle to help assist you through the application process.
And Eileen, so this slide that you were on answered most of this question. But I guess the last part of the question, maybe you could clarify. So the full question is, when can we submit an SBIR STTR proposal? And so there are dates here listed. I know there are calls for proposals from DOE SBIR STTR released periodically. Are those the only moments we can submit proposal?
Yes, there's 2 cycles a year. The one coming up, they start in July. We have a release 1 and a release 2. That's it for the year. July of every year and November of every year, a roughly 3-month cycle begins for the application process. The release 1 are more focused around basic energy sciences, and release 2 is more about energy efficiency, renewable energy, nuclear energy, et cetera, more applied. But take a look at both. I encourage you to look at both topics documents when they're released to make sure to see if there's a good fit with what you're doing.
All right, thank you. We have 2 more questions, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
So can NSF at phase 1 awardee directly submit to DOE SBIR phase 2 this year?
You know, I believe that those types of progressions can happen. But I will tell you that I've been here for less than a year and I don't know all the answers. And that's one that I'm not sure about. So I would like to ask the person to send me an email, and then my email will come later. Or Ala, if you could type my email address into the chat box, please send me an email with this question, and I will get you a little bit more specific information about this specific phase 1, phase 2 question.
Yeah.
My contribute my knowledge on this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the one you just said, that one, sometimes we call that one crossover. Crossover refer to your phase 1 is funded by agency A, and phase 2 turned out to be funded by agency B. And the other kind of crossover is phase 1, you award SBIR, and phase 2 become STTR or vice versa, okay? Your question is, you already phase 1 NSF awardee, can I apply for phase 2 DOE SBIR, something like that? In fact, my understanding, the way it works out is there's a few ways that things work out. One is you are invited by another agency because they are aware of you have phase 1 with National Science Foundation. They are interested. They approach NSF, discuss with them, and if there's mutual agreement, they are going to invite you to apply to continue with their phase 2. One example I heard is NOAA said they funded a phase 1 technology. When the project ongoing, they got a call from NASA. NASA discussed with them and expressed interest to fund their phase 2. And indeed, later on, that became a NASA phase 2. Okay, so that's one example. The other one, if you are interested in this idea, I agree with Eileen that it should start with your program officer. In your case, will be the program officer work with you in National Science Foundation to see whether that is a good idea. Because the crucial part is there will be mutual agreement between 2 different agencies in order to cross over.
Yeah, and I would, those are really great examples, and I would expect that every agency may handle it a little bit differently. But it's a good start to talk to the program officer.
Yeah, by the way, Eileen, my understanding is DOE does not have direct phase 2, which means all the phase 2 applications have to be from phase 1, right?
Oh yeah, you cannot go directly to phase 2. That's correct. And on this page, the funding opportunities page, there's the phase 2 schedule. And I don't know of specific examples of the crossing over agencies from phase 1 to phase 2. So I would appreciate if the person could send me an email and I could give you agent DOE specific information about that.
Yeah, and I just posted your email address in the chat. So if anybody needs that, or just get in touch with me and I will connect you with Eileen. Do we have time for more questions, or do you just want to keep going?
Yeah.
How are we doing? Yeah, okay. So next question is, are there matching requirements for funding?
No.
Okay, that was easy.
There are not matching.
Next one is, if we have been doing research, can we apply directly to phase 2C or phase 3 without having gone through phase 1 or 2?
No, you cannot. You have to start with a phase 1 grant in our program and move to phase 2. And after that, you would move to a phase 2, A, B, or C, depending on the circumstances. So we start the process with a technology feasibility evaluation. In phase 3, there's not an application process for phase 3 because it is not within our organization, because it's not SBIR or STTR program. Phase 3 refers to funding post SBIR and STTR from other sources.
Right, so phase 3, just to clarify, SBIR, STTR does not provide money.
That's correct.
Just to clarify, yeah. So, and the last question for now is, how important is it for the innovator to have an idea of the end market buyers for the technology coming into phase 1 application? It's a good question.
That's a really great question. The phase 1 application has a short commercialization plan, but it is not a major portion of the evaluation of the application. It focuses on the potential impact, the qualifications of the team, and the feasibility of the idea and the plan, or the ability to carry out the work. I have a slide coming up on that. So the commercialization plan, there is one. It is a smaller portion of the evaluation process than when you write your phase 2 proposal, which has a much more detailed commercialization plan section.
Thank you.
Now, what I wanted to move to was the kinds of assistance that we provide, because that's very important, especially for first-time applicants. It's not just a grant program. We offer a lot of application assistance, several application assistance programs, and we also offer a lot of awardee assistance as well to help you move along that path to commercialization. If you are a first-time DOE, SBIR, STTR applicant, you can have applied and received awards from other agencies. But if you are first time to DOE, we have a phase 0 application assistance program in which you receive one-on-one support to help you through the application process. You receive a coach through our contractor who provides the program. The company is Dawnbreaker, and they have extensive expertise in our application process, as well as a lot of commercialization and market research expertise as well too. So they will even help you with your phase 1 commercialization plan. They provide a variety of services I'll show you on the next slide, but they will help you develop that phase 1 commercialization plan. We have 2 webinars. When the topics are released, we have a webinar, and you can ask questions to the technical topic managers during that webinar. And we also have a webinar to talk about the funding opportunity announcement, which is the solicitation and application process. So I do want to mention that you can always reach out to the technical topic managers. There's no rules about when you can do it, except that it must be during the solicitation cycle. From the time the topics are released until the time you submit your application, you can email the technical topic manager with questions about the fit of the topic should be around the fit of your technology to the program. It should be very specific, but you can email them, and their email addresses are provided in the topics document. We have an online learning center. You can have there are videos about working your way through the application process, what registrations you need. Alex touched on that. There are 5 system registrations that are required before you submit your application. And there's other videos such as doing your budget and your letter of intent and that type of thing. Are you interested in teaming with the national labs or collaborating with the national labs, there's a link which talks about the types of research and development that are going on. And they also provide email addresses and I think maybe phone numbers as well. So you can explore collaboration opportunities with the national labs. Maybe you need a lab to get to do some type of a work to help you with your research and development, to launch your product, to conduct your feasibility review. So go to the site if you think that you need some of that assistance. We offer about 7 Q&A webinars during the application process that anybody can join and ask any questions. We did 7 of them during the last funding opportunity, and we answered over 400 questions. You can email us with any questions, and we pride ourselves on answering all of the email questions that come into this email address. And we do it, turn those questions around within 24 hours, unless it's a complicated question that requires a little bit of investigation. And if you join our mailing list or you follow us on Twitter, you're going to learn about all these things, because we tweet about and send out information about all of this stuff during the funding opportunities. So your invitation to all of the webinars will show up in your email inbox. Information about the Phase 0 program will show up in your email inbox. So stay informed by joining our mailing list. Okay, here's the Phase 0 slide. It's first come, first serve. We have a specific number of slots for this program. If you want to if you decide you're going to submit an application, you want to enroll in Phase 0, go on early after the topics are released. That's when the application to Phase 0 opens. And it is not a real application process. It is filling out a very simple web form. And then someone from Dawnbreaker will reach out to you and contact you, and you'll have a phone call about your technology to see if you are a good fit with the program. And if there are slots open and you're a good fit with the program, you will be admitted to the Phase 0 application assistance program. Here, this shows all of the services that you will receive if you enroll in Phase 0. They will help you with your letter of intent. They will help you make sure that you get your 5 online registrations set up. One of them takes 6 weeks, so you need to get started on your registrations right away to pass through all the gates to get your SAM registration up and running. They will help you with your Phase 1 proposal. They will conduct market research and help you with your commercialization plan for your Phase 1 application. And there are some optional services as well too. You can pick 1 or 2 of these services on an intellectual property. There's a travel assistance program. You could travel to the national labs and talk to them about your Phase 1 program, about your Phase 1 research. If you are in this, we call the Phase 0 program. So there's a number of other services in addition to these 5 core services that are shown on the slide. This just shows a screenshot of the topics. There's a maximum award amount. Don't request more than that maximum award amount. Your proposal will not even be reviewed. It will be automatically declined. Some of the topics accept SBIR and STTR applications. Some don't. So pay attention to that as well too. And make sure that you very carefully read the topics. Make sure you read all the references and are familiar with the references associated with the topic. Get to know this R&D area and make sure that you're up to speed on the latest in this area. So it's very highly recommended that you become an expert on what is going on in this field as part of your process. Again, open communication is permitted about the topic scope with the DOE program managers during the entire process. And the email address is provided. Now, I do want to caution potential applicants that the program managers are very busy people. Some are very responsive, some are less so, unfortunately. But the earlier that you email them with questions, earlier in the application process, the more likely you are to be able to engage in a conversation with them.
Aline, we do have another question. Sorry
Sure.
to interrupt.
Sure.
So the question is, for phase 0 assistance, can someone enroll this summer knowing that their project will be a better fit for the November topics?
No, you would have to enroll in the November schedule. Yeah, when the November topics open, you look up the document, you decide if you're going to go with a proposal, and then you would enroll in phase 0 immediately.
All right, thank you.
Just to make, I'm going to go over a few awardee resources very quickly, just to leave time for additional questions. During phase 1, you get, in addition to the 200 or the 250,000, whatever your grant is, you get $6,500 worth of commercialization assistance. So you meet with market researchers and commercialization experts and other experts in this area to help you develop a commercialization plan during phase 1. And during phase 2, that amount is $50,000. You can use your own vendor or you can use our vendor. And again, it's over and above the $200,000 or the $250,000 limit for the phase 1 grant. So here is the review process. There are 3 technical reviews. There's not a commercialization plan reviewer per se for the phase 1 application. And it is based on the strength of your approach that you propose, the ability to execute, and the potential impact of the technology. The proposals are ranked, they're given scores, they're sorted, and the most highly ranked applications are funded. We have more good applications than we have funds. So you make some small businesses every cycle will get good reviews. They wrote a good proposal. They didn't get funded because of the limitations of the funding. Okay, and then here is the commercialization process where you go to proof of concept through commercialization. I just want to point out that we have a lot of the light blue are application assistance programs. The orange are awardee resources as well too. We have a number of programs for awardees. You can go to our website and find out more about, there's an application tab, assistance tab, and there's an awardee resource tab. And that is it. Just highlighting a few things. Phase 0 is free to you. The videos are very helpful and free as well too. Email us with any questions, join our mailing list, follow us on Twitter to keep up with the latest that's going on in our office. So thank you. And it looks like we have about 10 more minutes to entertain questions.
Yes, thank you so much. This has been very informative. Thank you both, Alex and Eileen. And we do have so anybody, please either submit your question via the Q&A or you can now raise your hand and I can unmute you if you prefer to talk. So the question is, are the support letters from the industry very important for phase 1 application?
We highly encourage the support letters. The support letters do strengthen your application. It doesn't mean you won't get an award if you don't have support letters, but they are looked upon favorably and they should be up to date. They shouldn't be a year old or 2 years old or that type of thing.
All right, thank you. Next question is, what is the TRL level for phase 1 funding?
The technology is really not ready at all. The technology is an idea in your head, essentially. An idea that you have, and you're going to be proving the feasibility of the idea that has the potential to turn into a commercial product and have a impact on the field as well.
So thank you, Eileen. And I also learned so much from you about the detail. And I would like to remind people that for the upcoming announcement cycle, pay attention to the deadline of LOI, letter of intent, because if you miss that one without submitting letter of intent, you are going to miss this cycle. Okay, so that is a kind of early deadline, because for many agencies, deadline is deadline. For DOE, don't meet that deadline. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing, very unique and very good one, I think, is DOE announcement. They have SBIR, STTR together, both of them in the same FOA. And also, in fact, I think DOE is very applicant friendly, because you can have one proposal apply for both. You just need to check mark. So those kind of things, I really like that one for the DOE application process. And I think it makes things easier.
And you have to comply with both requirements, but yes, you can apply for both.
Yeah.
And Alex covered some of the percentages of the research institution and the small business. So you just have to make sure that you fulfill all the requirements. If you applied for both, the PI would have to be an employee of the small business, by the way, because of that requirement. So
yeah. And I know both of you have covered a lot of information, but Eileen, do you see any just common mistakes that people, what are the most common mistakes that people make when they try to submit these applications that you see and it's just so easy to avoid? Or, you know, what, could you talk about that?
So we, you know, one of the things we do cover, we really try to keep people from making administrative mistakes that would cause the application to be declined. And there's, like, as an example, if the maximum funding was $250 and you asked for $251,000, it would be declined. Another example is if you switch subtopics from your letter of intent to your proposal, there's an automatic decline. So there's a list of things that cause an administrative decline, and it is one of the things that we cover in our topic webinars as well. So you don't want that to happen, and a very small number of applications. That doesn't happen to so many. It's definitely like less than 1% of the applications. And you know, it's important to create alignment between what you're doing and the topic as well. It's important to develop a team that can conduct the research, and it's important to have a really strong work plan, so that your work plan is laid out in a way that it will be able to accomplish what you want to do. It will be able to accomplish your feasibility study.
Yeah, and also from the business point of view, I wanted to add that it's really important that the project that you're proposing is actually aligned with your business strategy.
Yeah.
That you're not just submitting it to get the money, but then it doesn't really advance your business any further.
That's right. You do have to have a vision for the technology in terms of turning it into a commercial product, or it may be something that one of the labs needs, but there's always opportunities to turn something that the lab needs into something that universities labs need, or private research labs need, or a pharmaceutical company might need, et cetera. So you need to be thinking along those lines, because then you're going to maximize the impact of your invention.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Do we have any more questions? So in the chat, we have a thank you so much for the information. We have about 4 more minutes, and we've had a steady flow of really good questions. So I was wondering if people have any more.
Well, thank you for hosting me. I enjoyed it, and feel free to reach out to our office. We pride ourselves on being accessible to potential applicants.
Yes, thank you so much. And we also look forward to, so in 2000, was it 2 years ago, right before the shutdown, we were able to host the SBIR tour bus in College Park. And that was great. So we hope maybe to be able to do that again. But in the meantime, if you could send us announcements of your workshops, any other programs, and I will promote it to our audience, make sure that they attend.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. You guys are all right there in Maryland. So
Yeah. And thank you so much, Eileen,
Okay.
for taking
It
time
looks
out
like
of your
there's one
day.
more. There's another question. Looks like.
Oh, yeah. Let's see.
Oh, the slide.
The slides, yes. We'll share the slides. And like I mentioned, the video will be posted to the Startup UMD YouTube channel in a few days as well. So again, and thank you, Alex, of course.
Yeah, thank you for hosting me, Alex and Ala.
Yes, thank you. And thank you so much to everybody who joined and stayed around till the end, and for all the fantastic questions as well.
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.